Father in heaven, as we gather in this council meeting, we're grateful for the opportunity to serve. We pray for thy spirit this day that we will be able to discuss those things that we need to. Just bless our community and our nation as we deal with this COVID virus. Bless those who are sick and those who are working hard to help subside. We're grateful for the many blessings we enjoy and pray for these things. In the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
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 Okay, welcome to the Committee Council of the Whole. This day is 7th day of April 2020. We hope you're all doing well in isolation and your own offices where you're all sitting at right now. We will now call this meeting to order. Thank you, Councillor Drew, for the prayer. Are there any additions and we need additions and adoption of the agenda, please? I can't see you, so just yell if you're the one that's making the motion.
I'll make a motion
to adopt the agenda.
Maybe
I saw Maggie, so I'll pick the mayor because I saw the mayor. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And I'm assuming there's no delegations. We'll now go to number 5, the adoptions of the minutes. I've read them through. I didn't notice any mistakes. I do know that the world has changed a lot since the last time we had a meeting because we weren't really dealing with COVID at the time. Could we have a motion to adopt the minutes of March 3rd, 2020?
I'll make that motion. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Whoever said that. Okay, thank you. Councillor Drew, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay, let's move on to bylaw policy.
No items.
There's no items on that one. Other business, this is going to be the bigger one, I guess. Let's take a look at the COVID-19 relief measures. We'll let Jeff deal with that one.
Okay.
This is dealing with taxes as well. Is that right, Jeff?
Yes. So I'm going to mess up your screens here for a second. 1 second. Okay, so I know you can't see each other now, but you can see the screen.
Yep.
Working with Jill, we've put together the following that we think captures what you wanted. When it comes to taxes, was to waive July 1st penalty of 8%. So the due date is still the 30th. And those that are on their bank mortgage payments, those that are on TIP, would still pay as per normal. Now we've run into a situation where a number of TIP customers are canceling TIP now because they don't think they can make the payment. So what we've put on here is that they can stop TIP immediately, and then they can pay the remaining balance by September 30th. And we can re-sign them up for TIP late. And they'll just have to amortize their payments over a month or two less. And same thing with our mortgage companies. We're still asking them to remit by June 30th, but there won't be a penalty if they're late. So any questions on the tax portion?
Councillor.
Yes.
Okay. I have a question. The question is as follows. If the situation was to worsen in the province, and some municipalities are waiving those right up to the end of December, are we willing to revisit what we are doing today by the end of August or the end of September, if needed?
Don't you be going to the washroom, Councillor Selk.
I would say to that, Mayor, I would say to that, as long as there's not a cash flow problem. Some of these communities that are waiving to the end of December, I think you're going to run into a cash flow problem. All of a sudden, they've got no tax money coming in. So I don't know. We probably aren't in that situation, but I know some communities are. My thought on it, but
I also understand that AUMA is starting to work with the government to try to create means or instrument for municipalities to deal exactly with that very thing, which is interest-free loans or whatever it might look like. So I'm just wondering if we want to revisit what we're doing today in 3 months' time or 4 months' time, whenever the time is.
Councillors, any thoughts?
I have a thought. I don't want to visit it till we absolutely need to.
But that's my idea.
Yeah, if you start giving people these options, then they look at it and say, oh, well, we'll just put it off till December now. You know, so I hate to see people get themselves into that boat where they're getting so far behind. We talked at the last meeting, we needed to make sure that suggest to them to do the best they can. But if down the road, 3 or 4 months from now, we have to visit that, then let's do it then. But I don't think we should give them that option right now.
Councillor Drew, your thoughts?
That is not what I was talking about. I was saying to revisit what we're doing by the end of September or in September sometime.
Whenever it happens, yeah. Okay. And I'm okay with that.
Councillor Drew? Are you there?
He's muted.
No, he's not.
Okay.
Can't see his face. He's dark.
How about Councillor Selk?
I think that what Jeff's outlined is what we talked about last time. I'm still comfortable with it. And yeah, I might have some other comments as we move forward through the utilities and other pieces. So,
okay. Councillor Bengry?
I think we need to review it in September, like the mayor suggested, and have a look and see from Jeff's report. You'll have a report for us in September on what's happening with the taxes.
Okay. Councillor Brown?
I think it's a great idea that it's something that we can absolutely revisit and go back to. We don't know what lies ahead, and so it's unreasonable to assume that this is just blanket statement is going to be fine for now. Where we're at, I think it's great, but I think it's, like the mayor said, totally reasonable to assume that, you know, where the world is at come September.
We won't know. So I think that's a good idea. We'll take another look at it at the end of the summer in September, if that's agreeable with everybody.
Yep.
I missed part of that. I'm having some problems, so I put my headset on, but okay. I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments on dealing with the taxes? Okay, we'll look at utilities now. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Anyway.
What I wonder, do we want to then make, does somebody want to make a recommendation to adopt what has been proposed by administration to start with before we go on with the utilities? And
we need to do that.
Sure.
Make a resolution, I mean, a recommendation to council, because we need to kind of deal with it piece by piece.
I'll make that recommendation, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, I'll make that recommendation.
Thank you.
Jill, you
All
got
in
it?
favor?
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I like that.
Aye. Utilities, Jeff?
Okay. 1 second here. So with utilities, essentially we just ask NMAX to waive any penalties from now through the July billing. So typically billed in August. They're already doing the electrical and natural gas. That was mandated by the provincial government. And so we could do the same thing for the other utilities that the town charges.
Any discussions on that?
I thought Councillor Selk, you wanted to say something.
No, not with utilities.
Okay.
We'll wait till the next item.
Okay.
All right. So
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to recommend to council to approve the deferral of penalties on water, sewer, and garbage for utilities.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay. Receivables.
So receivables has a few more innuendos to it. Let me just get it back up here. So we always have a 1% per month interest charge on outstanding receivables. The recommendation is to waive those from now through the July billing. The other thing we discussed at some length was the charge for late business license payments. So those were billed in January, and there's always a few that aren't paid, and there's a penalty applied to them. So we have it that it would still apply, but if you feel otherwise, we can have that discussion too.
Any discussions about this? Madam Mayor?
Thank you. Regarding the business licenses, I think if the business is shut down at this point due to the COVID-19, doesn't make even sense to pay a business license at this point. They're not even in business. They're closed by provincial order.
Can I chime in here?
Yes.
I just, from my standpoint, if those business licenses are due in January,
Yeah.
I paid mine in January,
Good.
and probably everybody else should have done that as well, but I just don't know. Just kind of irritates me a little bit because
Yeah.
people should be paying it, and now that we have this pandemic, they're not going to have to pay it for a while. And yeah, anyways.
So you're in favor of leaving that $25 charge on then?
Well, like, you know, under the circumstances, if they're closed, I guess my charitable side comes into play and says, yeah, let's not worry about that. But if I was in a bad mood, I'd say, yeah, let's leave it.
Good question.
Yes.
So the business license, maybe this is to Jeff. The business license, is it according to 12 months of operation, or is it just once a year, just a flat rate?
Yes. Now, if you start your business in March,
Yes.
you'd still pay your business license for a prorate. We wouldn't prorate the fee, but you'd only have it for that calendar year.
Yeah.
So on these businesses that aren't open right now because we've been told to shut down,
Yeah.
would it be reasonable to prorate them?
It's a good point, Councillor.
I think Jill has something to say there.
Well, she's just saying that we're prorating $60. You know, how much do we want to do that for every individual business?
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I don't know.
To hear what council thinks.
Yeah.
So what do you mean you're prorating $60?
How much a business is.
Yeah.
It's a minimal amount of money.
Okay.
Well, and it should have been paid in January.
Yeah, I agree with
That's
you.
why I paid mine in January. So, I mean, yeah, anyways.
All right, Councillor Scrooge.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the
Yes.
question really is, are we willing to defer, to eliminate the $25 charge for late business license payment? If you want the license to still be something that people have to pay because they have a business, I understand that, but and I understand you, Councillor Drew, you've done the right thing, and thank you for doing it as a business owner. But at this point, what do we do with those who really are not paying?
So I
Do
think,
we tell, and they are closed, do we tell them you
Yeah.
cannot reopen until you pay your license?
Question.
sorry.
Councillor Bengry.
Jeff, how many businesses have we got that are in a situation of non-payment of taxes or licenses?
I'm just looking at Jill here for a second. 25?
Ooh, so that's
Yeah,
about
a lot then.
1/5 of the business.
Have they asked if they can defer them?
No.
Then let's not enter into that. If they haven't asked, don't worry about it. I have this thing that if somebody isn't asking, don't anticipate until they ask. Then you can give them the ruling. But I don't think we need to invite them in mass to come in and say, "Oh, you've just said we can defer these payments, and you know, I'm on board with Councillor Drew. You know, I've been a businessman for 35, 40 years, and I've always tried to pay mine as soon as possible. If I don't, I get a reminder and I pay it. You know, but you know, $60 isn't a lot of money, but I suppose if the time comes and they're saying, geez, you know, we can't afford this, then we look at it. But I don't want to be sending out letters to people and saying, hey, you know, just in case, you know, that's just my feeling.
That's viable. If they're not complaining or not asking for it, why are we bringing it up?
I can't hear you very well.
I said if they're not asking for relief and they haven't brought it up, why are we bringing it up?
Exactly.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We have not still addressed the issue. The issue is a $25 charge.
And they haven't seen the late charge yet, I'm assuming. There hasn't
That
been
is
anything
what
sent
we
out
need
to
to
them.
resolve. Are we waiving the charge on those outstanding business license? Yes or no? That is a question, I think.
Can I chime in?
Yes.
And then
We'll
I
just
have
go around the table. Let's go around the table and everybody have their say at this. Go ahead, Councillor Drew.
I've talked to several business owners who are like 100% shut down, and if they stay that way for the next 2 or 3 months, they're not going to reopen. So I don't know that charging them $25 penalty is going to be to our advantage, but I would be willing to waive that if it helps that person out. So that's all I have to say.
It's a good mood. It's a good mood, Councillor Drew, that's talking now.
Well, I'm just
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
It's April and January it was due, so yeah, whatever. You know how I feel about that. So,
Councillor Selk.
Well, I think we can answer the mayor's question and just determine that we're going to waive it, and then leave it up to administration on how they want to administer it. And if there are businesses that are going out of business, then adding another $25 fee on their going out of business sale is probably not the most ideal thing. We don't look very compassionate. I think at the end of the day, we can adopt the policy, and then if it needs to be implemented on a case-by-case basis by administration, then they can do it. We've given them our blessing to do it.
Councillor Bengry.
I got mixed feelings on this one. The reason why is I'm in line with Councillor Drew in the fact that if your business license is due January 1st, it should have been paid. So what do we do with the ones that have paid? Is there a rebate of $25? You know, we penalize the ones that are not paying, and yet what do we do for the ones that are paying and keeping ahead of the business? I don't know.
Mayor.
All right. I really think because of the extreme circumstances we are in at this time, I would agree with Councillor Selk. Let's not add another nail to the coffin. If they did not pay it in January, it's maybe because it's another fee that I couldn't deal with at that point. We don't know their circumstances. All what we know that most likely many of those people don't have a business open right now, and you couldn't even collect it from them.
Yeah.
You know.
Councillor Barnes or Brown?
I agree with what the mayor is saying. I think I'm a little bit annoyed that the 25 businesses that haven't paid it, I mean, it is April. I'm a little annoyed that they haven't paid it. And so will they get fined, or will they have to pay that extra money? It's tricky. I definitely don't want the businesses that have been shut down to have to pay this extra fee. But I think it is reasonable to just leave it up to administration to go ahead and proceed with this.
My thought is that once this COVID virus thing settles down, and if they get back to work, then maybe penalize them then. They should have had it paid the 1st of January, but I wouldn't be going after them right now.
Yeah.
Councillor Barnes, anything else on it? Then
Yeah,
we'll get
well,
back
I look at it from that point of view. Don't want to add an extra penalty, but I feel, they should have paid that in January, the latest February. Yeah, I find sometimes in business, I know lots of business people, and they get busy and they just put it off and put it off. They forget. It's not that they didn't have the money to pay it. They just put it off. And now there's an opportunity for them to get away with it. So anyway, but I don't think we should throw the extra penalty. I agree with the mayor. We'll go with that. I don't feel good about the situation, but I'm okay with it.
Mr.
I
Chair.
would still like to see, once they get up and running, that they pay that late fee, because why would Councillor Drew and those that paid on time, why would they have to be not penalized because they didn't pay on time? Councillor Selk.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple thoughts on that. One is if these are businesses that haven't paid and they get back up and running, we'll take their $60 and say thank you very much, because they're paying what they should have paid. When it gets into, well, are we penalizing them? The ones that did pay, the same could be said when it comes to all of the property tax payments. But all those tip people that are paying right up until the bitter end, and so they're doing what they're supposed to do, but everybody else gets pushed till the end of September. So it's a sticky situation. I just think that you have to be fluid, and you have to give everyone as much of a benefit of a doubt as you can at this time, because no one knows their own circumstances better than the people who have to pay.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. I wouldn't be going after them right now. I'd wait till everything gets back to normal, then maybe the $60. That'd be my thoughts on it anyhow. Anything else on this?
Yeah, I just want to make just a comment. As somebody who has paid and somebody who's planning on paying his taxes and his utility bills every month, I don't really care if the town's going to defer or whatever. In my situation, I'm going to make sure that I do what I need to do for my business and for my home, and that's so I don't feel like I have to have some special treatment because I'm paying everything up and everybody else gets deferred. That just doesn't bother me. So anyways.
So where do we go with this? Do we let the administration make that call?
Yes.
Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I really would like to make a recommendation to approve the receivable relief measures put in place by administration.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Let's move on. Do you have more discussions on this, Jeff, like a timeline or anything like that? Message to the public?
We will bring you the formal resolutions next week to council meeting.
Sounds good. Okay. Anything else on this?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm just wondering, regarding the time frame, do we want to formalize when we want to readdress all those? In our packet, it talks about July, but is July too early? Do we want to?
In my mind, I'd move it to September, but that's just me.
Or
Any
do
other
we
thoughts
want
on
to
that?
push it in August, in between?
Councillor Barnes here. I thought we had always been talking September, so I think that it should be the September we can readdress it.
Any other comments on that?
I think September is fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to do it go ahead, Jeff. We need to do it before the taxes are really due for those who are paying late, right? So maybe mid-September at the latest.
Okay.
Maybe CCW in September.
Any other comments on that? Mid-September? Is that fine with everybody?
Councillor Cord, it's Jeff.
Yeah.
The utility one will probably bring back in July, just because that's the last billing cycle.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right. July gives us about, 2 more months? Basically.
You'd have 3.
Yeah,
3 months. Well, let's revisit all this in July. There could be a whole brave new world. if we need to put it off after that, we can do that as well. We look at it in July, and if we see like a need to push it into September, we can do that. It was not written in stone.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Any other comments on that? Okay, can we move on then? Donations policy.
Councillor Bengry, the information on the screen was from you.
Yes. I've been looking at the economics of the whole situation and what could happen to our community as far as financial situations are concerned. I think some of our donation need to be looked at very seriously. Like we've got line item donations that it's almost an open door policy where you don't have to relate to the council. You don't have to refer to the council. You don't have to bring your problems to council and we decide. We've just made them a line item. And I'll take one for instance is the COP program. It hasn't been running for about 4 months. It's a line item that we dispersed $2,000. They also have a phone that's on the town billing. I don't know what's happened to that. And until the COP program comes up and running, then they need to come to council and plead their case. The miscellaneous donation of $1,000, it can stay. Victim services, $5,376 is a line item. They used that against the county. They said to the county, and I quote, town of Cardston has this as a line item and it's $5,000. How do you feel about that? So the county stepped up to the plate and donated $5,000. But do we need to revisit our donation policy and then review it probably in November or December is my question.
Councillor, Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Can I
Mayor, go ahead.
speak to that? Okay, so the STARS was discussed at council. The service for victims was discussed at council. So those items were not randomly put there. They were put there because someone came and pleaded their case to council. And we chose to support those things. So I'm not so 100% sure I really understand. Now, I understand your concern about the COP, and that is something dear to your heart. And you kind of follow that very closely, and it's great. But if we don't put a little bit of money in that budget line, the days that are needed, and there is none, then we have to start the procedures at council. So the money is not used right now. It does not need to be dispersed. It's there. Doesn't mean that it cannot go back into general donations or general funding.
Well, I disagree with making a line item from budget to budget. I think that we need to review whatever we're doing per budget basis. And when I say that, when we review our budget, that's the time that we need to review our donation policy and the people that we are donating to at that time. I mean, to put down victim services for the next 3 years at $5,000 a year or whatever, and is to say, you know, you've got $5,000. What happens if we come into a financial crunch? And I think that we need to review it on a budget basis. Every time we review our budget, we need to review our donations.
Okay, here's a question for me to understand. Are these that are listed there, are they just automatically, they go out every year? Does council not talk about these? Are they just an automatic disbursement?
You asking me?
Yes.
Okay.
Whoever wants to answer that.
Sure. So they are items at some point were moved to put in the budget. Now you can scrutinize them at any point in time. We've got mill rate budget coming up in a month. We can scrutinize it there as well. So at some point there is a resolution to support that entity for a certain dollar.
Okay. Now, Councillor Bengry wants to review this in November. Is there a problem with that?
Or when we review our budget.
Yeah, you can review it next month for mill rate budget. That's fine.
Other councillors, any comments on this?
I have a question.
Yes, Councillor Brown.
So with FCSS on the board that I sit on, every time somebody applies for funding, they come in, they give us a breakdown of what they're asking, they give their pitch, and as the board, we assess it and we come up with a game plan for how much money they're getting. And every year they have to reapply. They have to ask for the, whether they need more or less. It's never less, but whether they need more, then they go ahead and ask us for it. But before they can ask for more money for the next year, they have to give us a breakdown of their costs. So I guess my question is this the way we're wanting to go with this, or is this a donation? Because there is a difference. Funding a program is funding a program. And if I'm going to fund a program, then I do want to know how much you spend on the cell phone. And I do want to know how much for rent or these things. But if it's a donation as council, and this of course is just my opinion, but if it is a donation, as in I'm giving you a donation for those mats and they go towards the mats, that's all I care about. I don't really need a breakdown of how many times those mats were used. That's not important to me personally. So I guess my question just more is, are we wanting to go a donation, or are we wanting to turn this into we're funding? Because to me, it's different.
Well, if we were doing this year after year after year, to me, that's funding. If they come every year and ask for something, it's a donation. So that's a valid point what you're talking about there. Any other councillors want to chime in on this? Councillor Barnes?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Nobody wants to say anything.
Oh, I will after you.
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead?
Everybody a chance.
Okay. I really think that I agree with Councillor Brown. When people come for money, they need to explain why, because we can't just be giving money out. We had an example. I'm trying to remember who it was that came. They wanted, I think it was Stars. They wanted a couple dollars per capita, and we talked about it, and we said, hey, you know what? We're in a tight year this year. We'll give you $1,000 per capita. And I think that we have to look at all of these things. I'm trying to think, what is the Job Ready program again, Jeff? Can you explain that to me?
That's the program with the Blood Tribe where we take graduating students and give them work experience here at the town.
Okay, and so last year we had 10 and they all left. They never did do anything, did they?
We had 5. And they started. They stayed just through a few months or a few weeks through the program. Sorry.
Yeah, and it fizzled right out.
Okay.
So is that a program we just need to say, we'll put that on hold?
No.
And keep the money there, but don't give it to them until we can prove that they're going to actually use it.
Okay, Madam Mayor.
I really look at all these. I haven't finished yet. I look at each one of these, and there's a lot of money. The handy bus, $38,000. Do they give us an accounting? I think a couple of years ago we were asking them for an accounting of that money, and did we ever get that?
Yeah, I have a statement right now from them for this last year. They give us a statement every year.
Okay,
thank you.
And is it $38,000? Does it actually work out to that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Madam Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Selk has not spoken. Go ahead, Councillor Selk.
Okay.
He's in the bathroom.
I'm in the garage. So my wife can't hear me swear.
You're still on channel 32, everyone.
I just want to
Hey,
know.
Councillor Selk.
I just want to know exactly why we feel the need to get down on the weeds in every one of these single donations that we're making. Is there something in there that's particularly offensive to anyone in terms of the dollar amount and who it's going to? Because when I look at it, I don't seem offended by any of those donations. I think they're going to worthwhile causes. So why are we wanting to get down in the weeds, have them come to us and say, here's what I did with your $1,000. I spent this much on this and this much on that and this. I'm sorry, I just don't see the need for that.
I kind of agree, but I think one of the problems is like COP and Job Ready, they're not being used. Are we just putting that money in the bank for the next year that they're going to be used? Are we rolling that over? Is that what we're doing? We're obviously not giving it to them if they're not using it.
Yeah, I can speak to that real quick. So that's one of those, when we looked at our reserves where we would not tax forward again, we'd roll it forward and fund the next year.
Okay. So it's not costing us anything then, it's just sitting in there.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
That was my.
Any other comments? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I agree with Councillor Selk. We cannot start to micromanage donation, or it's a donation or it's not a donation. For the large amount, we require some accounting. STARS give us accounting, so does the victim services, so does the handy bus. Last year, you know, we lost the person who was Mike, who was leading that. So of course, those things fell by the wayside for a while, but I'm sure it's going to go back on track. So considering that the rest of the money not used is being rolled over, there's no harm to it. Now, can program be run better by the organization? Well, that's true of any organization. But for us, I agree. Or it's a donation or it's not. But it's called donation at this point.
Is there a problem with reviewing this just for the heck of it once a year for 5 minutes? Just take a look at it and see how they all need this. We're all good with that. Away we go. Is there a problem with doing that at all?
But
Councillor?
I have a question on that. Yeah. My question would be, when they apply for it every year, isn't that what we do anyway? Is we assess it, we say, okay, it looks like they still need this much money, so okay, let's go ahead and give them that much money. Aren't we already doing that?
Are they applying every year?
But so did STARS, so did victim services did apply, and they came report to us.
Yeah, so I feel like we're already doing this, but I could be wrong.
Same with handy bus.
Yeah.
Do they apply every year?
Yeah.
Jeff, do they apply every year?
They do apply every year, so there is accounting every year.
Then I don't have a problem with it, but what I see on the page there then, personally. Any other comments on this?
Councillor Selk.
Councillor Selk?
No.
At budget time, we do review everything in the budget. So, like, do we want to double review everything?
No, I'm just asking to make sure that we do review everything and make sure that everything is in order.
Okay, so apparently we do that at budget time at the very least. So there it is. Any other comments on this?
I just have one quick question. And
Councillor Barnes?
I don't mean to be picky on the Seltzer Kitchen, but we spent $700 to do our sandwiches, and then we had a request for another $250 to help out again because they were short. You know, where did that money come from?
Can I help you with that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that comes from the goodwill of the citizens of this town who have put money into an account that is called Food for the Shelter.
Okay. How much money do we have in that account?
And by the way, if you are so inclined, you can add money yourself. I do so.
Good. I don't have a problem with that either.
I'm just pitching for you to see how we can help the program.
Do we have much money in that program right now, Jeff?
There's still
What is it, 500 bucks?
$550.
Yeah, 500 plus.
When was the last time we put out a pitch and asked people to donate?
It's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, we did one at Christmas this year.
It'd be nice to do reminders, and that would help.
Yeah, well, if we start ourselves and show the example, I'm sure they will help. I put
Equals some money,
$100.
Councillor.
I put $100 last month. You match me. I like that. We'll cover one whole month.
Anything else to discuss on this, the donation policy?
No,
I think
thank you.
if we're being reviewed, if it's been reviewed and we do budget, I don't see an issue on that. So
Thank
can
you.
we move on? I'll take that silence as a yes.
Yeah.
Emergency coordination center update. Jeff was going to give us an update on this.
Yep. Okay. Grab my notes. Okay. Since we last talked, there's been a couple
What
of
item
things.
number is this?
Oh, sorry. What's that?
What item number are we looking at now?
What is it? I don't
We're
know.
on 7C.
7C.
7C? There's no backgrounder for it, Councillor.
Oh, okay.
So we continue to run the Emergency Coordination Center with the Mayor and Councillor Barnes. Last Friday, we had a full emergency management agency meeting with a number of stakeholders in the community. It was a little big as far as we had 30 participants. Councillor Selk was there representing the stake. So it's a little unwieldy to have a virtual meeting with 30 participants. So what we've done, and you know what, I just realized I didn't bring this up. Hold on, bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to pull up something here. What we decided to do is break things into subcommittees that are a little better sized. Jill, I'm going into your folder here without your permission. Excuse me. Geez, organize your files. Hold on, here we are. All right. I met with Murray Millward because we were jointly hosting the larger committee meeting, and we took all the participants and we broke everybody into 4 groups. So we have a municipal group, or government group, I should say. So with Murray and I, Jill, Shem, Danny from the fire department, Bart, Peter Wright from the school division, Don Fraser, Gerry DeZoba from AEMA, Nadine Tailfeathers from Blood Tribe, and Joseph from the county. We have a second group, which is healthcare. So Murray and I will also be on this one. And the reason is that in this pandemic, Alberta Health is the lead agency. So it's not the town. So then we have Cheryl from the hospital, Kim from Chinook, Angela from Lee Crest, Robert from Public Health, Ron from the clinic, Kim from Support Services, and Nadine asked me today if Blood Tribe Health could have an appointee on that one as well, which I think is a good idea. Then we'll have a business group, which Angel and Steve Bevins from the county will chair, with the chamber and then our drug and grocery stores. And then a volunteer and community group, which Tara from FCSS will chair, which will be the Stakes Relief Society and High Councillors, Interagency, Victim Services, and the Seniors Association. So we're going to try and meet with those groups maybe once every week or 2, depending on the severity of how this incident unfolds. And then that group will report back to the emergency management committees of each municipality. We think that'll make it a little easier to deal with going forward. So those meetings should start this next week.
When does the emergency advisory committee meet again?
Actually, I wouldn't mind meeting just after this for a couple minutes if we could.
Sure.
Okay.
So as far as our objectives, we're continuing to put up signage and communication. We delivered some more signs about people entering the country to businesses today at their request. They were very happy for that. I continue to attend Alberta Emergency Management and Regional Management meetings. And then we also created a screening form for contractors and staff that will be working with our staff. So, for example, if a seasonal student is going to start at the end of April, but they've been sharing a house with someone who's in quarantine, they're going to have to wait to start with us, because we're not going to introduce them to the staff and the trucks and the lunchroom and everything else if potentially they're contagious. So we're just working on a few little things like that. I had a really good talk today with Rick Soup and Nadine Tailfeathers from Blood Tribe. So we shared what each were doing and how we could support each other. I was actually really encouraged following the phone call. They've asked us to do just a couple of things, quite simple, but continue our messaging regarding social distancing, staying at home, being safe, and snowbird travel. That's still their concerns. They would like us to potentially petition government to increase testing capacity at the Cardston Hospital. They're having some issues where they have members of the Blood Reserve who, for example, when this all started in Lethbridge, maybe they're at a shelter or maybe they're somewhere Alf Reserve and they want to come home. They don't want to bring them home if they're contagious. But we don't have much for testing capacity here in the local area. So they've asked if maybe we could talk to the MLA or talk to the ministry, which I haven't shared. I just had this phone call a couple hours ago. They've asked if we would encourage their state local emergency by, again, encouraging people just to pass through the area. Don't stop, don't pull fuel, don't stop and get groceries, all that stuff we're doing. And then they had a very interesting one, actually. So they've put a curfew in place for their youth 17 and under. They have to be home by 8 p.m. And they said it's going quite well, that people are really being compliant and cooperative, but they're having trouble with some of the adults not staying home. And particularly, it's that traffic between Moses Lake and Cardston, all hours of the night. And they're looking for ways to mitigate that. And what they're finding is traffic's coming from Moses Lake into Cardston late at night, and people are going to Husky or Fast Gas to get something in the convenience store because they're open late, or in Fast Gas's case, open quite late, I believe, if not 24 hours. And they've asked if we can meet with them and see if they would close the convenience store portions at 8 p.m. and keep their pumps open later if they wish to. So that's something we haven't discussed with them yet. I'll try and meet with them in the next couple of days. They feel that would support their efforts in Moses Lake to keep people home. So we'll look at something, some of that. So we just had a good discussion about each agency, and then Nadine asked if Blood Tribe Health could be on our subcommittee, which was great. And other than that, I mean, it's quiet. There is some concerns provincially about personal protective equipment. So you've heard in the last 24 hours where from a federal and provincial level, they're saying the wearing of masks may have benefit. Well, that's all good and well, except there's not 35 million masks available in Canada. And even as a town organization, we have some, but we can't get our hands on many at all. I mean, we have dozens, but that's it. So the question is are the residents going to be looking to the municipality to provide personal protective equipment? And whether that's gloves, whether that's masks, and those kind of things. Now, the answer right now is no, we're not the responsible entity for that, but we're working with the province to try and procure some of that on a large scale. So I meet with Gerry DeZoba. We talk a couple of times a week to see if we start needing that we can get it. And that's my update at this point.
I have
Okay, when I watched the presentation yesterday from Dr. Hinshaw on the Premier, I think the Premier got a little bit mixed up on that. Dr. Hinshaw, as far as the mask went, said as long as you are not close to somebody, it's not necessary to wear a mask. But then the Premier kind of said maybe we should all be wearing masks. As far as the testing goes at the hospital here, I could ask the expert upstairs. She could probably tell me more. But she said as of today, if you're 65 plus, which is half of our council at least, and if you're showing any signs like you got a runny nose or anything, they will test you. Okay. So they've expanded the testing. They can do it at our hospital. It can be done here. I don't think they're short of anybody. It's a matter of a lab, I believe. I mean, I could double check with my wife upstairs, but that's what I understand anyhow. So, so if they're showing signs, they're 65 plus, or if they're showing signs and they're quite sick, they will test them.
Mr. Chair.
I need to mention one other thing too. Go ahead, Councillor Barnes.
I have a concern downtown. The street people still are congregating. They're still going after people going in and out of the bank. I was just headed out of town today, and there was probably 8 or 10 right up there on Cahoon Corner, and they're all snipping and soused, and and they're first thing this morning, I came into my office and they're all right there at the bank, and people are coming to go into the bank, and they're right there And it's a real concern because there are costing people wanting to still borrow money. I phoned the RCMP and I asked them what they were doing. I said, we have provincial advice. What are you doing to help get these people away from congregating? And he said, well, they can be in groups of more 15 or less. I said, that's not the point. I said, these are the people that are the problems on the street. These are the ones that are coming up without a face mask and they're sniffing and they're going up and they're mooching money off of people or accosting them at the bank. I said, I don't think that you should allow them to do that. And so I came back into town probably half an hour later and they were all gone. So he said they were going to go down and move them on. But it's, by golly, these people aren't getting the message. Those street people are still doing what they've always done.
Can I say
that's a
something?
real concern.
Okay, Madam Mayor, and then Councillor Brown.
There are measures that have been taken by the Blood Tribe to try to help with that issue. And I don't know if they are in place now or not. They have opened the gym in Moses Lake to become the housing facility for this population and to be able to look after their needs in a different manner. So I do not know when that will be operational, but the Blood Tribe Health and the council is concerned about the same issue for their population, for all population. So there is something there that will be addressed and is being addressed as we speak.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
So we need to be a little bit more patient right now. I understand the issue. It's not an easy one, no in Lethbridge, no in our town, no anywhere where there are people who don't have a shelter that is permanent. So that is what the Blood Tribe is addressing.
Okay.
Chairman?
Yes, Councillor Brown.
I think we have to remember, I mean, I agree with everything the mayor just said, but to add on to it, I would also say, when we heard from the U of L a couple summers ago that when they talked to our homeless people on Main Street, that the reason they brought up that they were on Main Street is because it was safe. So whether there's a virus or not, they're still going to come to our Main Street because it's safe, right? I mean, they're still going to be there. They like the social interaction. So the Blood Tribe is doing their part. They are trying to help with this, but I mean, we're not going to, we can't just take them and pick them up and haul them away. That's not appropriate. We have to come up, and it sounds like the Blood Tribe is trying to come up with something that is more tender and caring for these people, because I mean, it's their Jeff said a long time ago when we were talking about this very subject, he said it's not the people we dislike, it's their action, right? It's their problems that they're drinking or whatever, huffing or whatever that is. And I know Councillor Barnes, you would agree, it's heartbreaking. But I think we just, I know, but I think we just, it's going to take time. It's going to take time. We just can't, this isn't something that can be handled within a week. Blood Tribe's on it. The RCMP, it sounds like you called them, which is exactly the right thing to do. So
I think we're all trying to get through this the best we can.
Great.
And of course, there's going to be instances that are going to cause some issues, no doubt about it. As far as the testing at the hospital, I have to fit within the guidelines. You just can't show up and say, well, I just got back from Vulcan from working. I want to see if I got the COVID virus. No, if you're not showing symptoms, you're not going to get tested. If you are, you will get tested as long as you fall within the guidelines. So
Yeah.
I just talked to my expert on that one. So
Councillor Court, Councillor Selk has something.
yes, Councillor Selk.
I was just going to say, we have to also understand that every single shelter in this country is dealing with issues, because it's a crowded space for everyone. So the concept of social distancing and keeping people a distance away is difficult when you live in crowded circumstances. So you have to applaud the Blood Tribe for opening up the gym so that they can make and create more space for people to be there.
Yeah.
Councillor
I-
Ford. Oh, sorry, Councillor Brown.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, so Mayor, on that, you brought it up. So are they advertising for this? Like you said, you're not sure if it's even open yet. Is that something that we as the town can help advertise and get out there when the time comes?
I think it's referral based, I think.
So we had Councillor Marcel Witherhead, who had a phone conversation with us. And there are different level of intervention that are being put in place right now and on a very short term for now. And to try to provide for those people who have those type of addiction, which is drinking alcohol from hand sanitizer, which doesn't exist anymore on the shelf, but mouthwash and who knows, hairspray and whatever else. So they are really working from a medical perspective to help that population.
Gotcha.
Councillor Court?
Yes, Jeff.
A couple of things along with that. They're also using the Senator Gladstone Hall to house people and the Continuing Care Center, the old St. Paul Treatment Center.
Right.
So we're gonna be doing that. And I need to mention about the Flamingo Motel because you guys will get comments on it, feedback on it.
Mhm.
I've already got a couple of calls. So Blood Tribe Department of Health has essentially rented the Flamingo Hotel for the next couple of months. And what they're doing is if they have patients, and by the way, it's for anyone in the community. It's not just for Blood Tribe Health patients. What you find particularly on the First Nation is you have multi-generational homes with many occupants of the home, and isolating properly becomes very difficult. So if you present with symptoms and they want you to isolate for 14 days, but you don't have a room of your own, you don't have a washroom you can access of your own, etc., the rest of that home is at high risk. So by referral from a doctor or nurse, those people can go to the Cahoon Hotel, or the Cahoon, I always call it the Cahoon, the Flamingo, and they can stay there during their isolation period. And they can't come or go, and people can't come and go from the room. And then once they have passed the 14th day, they can go back to their home where the rest of the occupants are safer.
Do you want to explain that there is a nurse on site?
Yeah, so there's a nurse on site. There's 24/7 security. There's an ambulance there most of the time. Now, I already had a call about how it's already full and full of people, and what are you doing to the neighborhood? So a few facts on the table. There's currently 2 rooms being used. So I ask Kevin Cowan fairly regularly. And again, they must be referred, and they can't come and go. So I applaud the Blood Tribe for looking at alternative measures to safely isolate people with symptoms and then managing it what seems to be very well.
And to open it to the town to boot.
Right. So if we have someone in town under the same circumstances, they can go there if they are referred there.
Awesome.
And so that was a good thing. Kevin Cowan came and met with the mayor and I last Wednesday, something like that. So you might get some feedback on that because there's already misinformation about it, unfortunately. But it seems to be overseen well, and it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
They book the whole motel just in case they get to fill it up. They've got the whole motel booked.
I believe it's 30 rooms or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's 38.
That's wonderful that they have that.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions concerning emergency coordination center updates, anything like that? Have you ordered out for dinner yet, Jeff? I'm just kidding.
Sorry, we're not providing dinner tonight, guys.
Correspondence. You've had a chance to read these. Is there any problems with any of the correspondence? The only one that kind of bothered me a little bit was this Carson Skating Club. Although it's redundant now because we did not have that meeting, but she suggested that they do not like the idea of a rec center. Well, that's fine if they don't like that, but they're the Carson Skating Club. It would be up to the citizens of the town if we're going to proceed with the recreation center, not the Carson Skating Club. That's the only thing that bothered me in those letters. But
Can I speak to this one?
who wants to go first, the mayor or Councillor Brown?
Councillor
Councillor Brown, go ahead.
No, I would just like to tell you how this letter came to be. So when I was drumming up people to try and get people to come to our rec center opening, I got a message on Facebook from somebody that was on the skating club, and they had a bunch of questions for me. And so I answered them to the best of my ability, and in regards to the rec center, sorry. And then they came back with, well, you know, how could you, they didn't understand the point of having a rec center when our other facilities are falling apart. And I said, please tell me, what do we have that's falling apart? I'm not aware that we have anything falling apart. And I said, if there is something, you know, please let us know. We want to know. And so they got a hold of their president from the skating club, which is Angela Wahlberger. And she got a hold of me and brought up a few things. And I said, great. Is it possible that you could write this all down and submit it so that we would have a list of the things that you're seeing that aren't being done? And so that's how this all came to be. And actually, Councillor Court, they aren't against a rec center. They're actually not. They just want to make sure that before we go ahead and build something that other areas are taken care of. Because in the letter herself, Angela says, actually, we're not against the rec center, because they aren't. It's not, when you talk to them, that's not what they're saying. But they do have some concerns.
Sorry. Just paragraph 3 that kind of concerned me. If you look at that letter.
Right. Right. She also said that they have a really good working relationship with Randy Russell and with Doug Sanders and with Jeff Heggie. So they're very happy with them, but they just have some things that needed to be written down and that they wanted to make sure that we were aware of. So.
Okay, thank you. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to see if we shouldn't reply to this letter somewhat, because there are some issues that are mentioned there that are maybe not issues.
Agreed.
And maybe there are misunderstanding, like the roof that leaks gunk onto the ice and onto people. Well, they need to understand why that is. They need to understand why the floor is so hard. There are quite a few things there that they should get an answer to. And another question that I have for administration is, in the master plan, there is some money that is designated to do upgrades and maintenance. So that is something that we do on a fairly regular basis, or on a certain amount of length over the years anyways. So is there something there that can be done to address some of those issues? Some of those issues cannot be addressed readily because it's way too expensive. We couldn't do it as a gunk and all that stuff. It's an isolation issue. Maybe you can help me understand how we maintain. How do we maintain that building?
I thought we had new flooring going in anyhow. Did we not have new flooring going in for the skaters?
Mats.
Flooring?
We got mats going in.
Yeah.
The rubber mats are being replaced, I understand.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, flooring is budgeted for this year.
Yeah. So that'll solve that. So
Councillor Selk has some.
If you want a letter sent back to the skating club, then addressing these issues, and who's on tap for that letter?
Oh, I can draft the letter. That's no problem.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was waiting for.
So
Mr. Chairman. Yes, Madam Mayor.
Can we just make a recommendation that the letter be written in response to the inquiry?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Court, you got Councillor Selk looking for you here.
Okay, Councillor Selk.
Hey, I had a question about a couple of items in that letter.
Yeah.
First of all, they talk about it being very cold in there. Now, when I was involved with minor hockey, I actually raised the money for the tube heaters that are already there through grants and other sources. So is the figure skating club and the minor hockey willing to put some skin in the game? Because I know we did before. And the other part of that is, if I recall correctly, Jeff, and maybe you can help me out here, part of the reason why some of the heaters aren't on all the time is because it melts the ice about a third of the way out from the boards.
Yeah, so if those are on too long, the bleachers get warm and then the boards get warm and then it never freezes in after intermissions.
So it's not that there can't be heat in there, it's that, do you want to skate in slush or do you want to skate on ice?
Well, the other thing too is, I know in my time with the town, we've tried, if you turn those heaters on, it doesn't do a lot to raise the overall temperature of the arena. Especially on ice level, right? All that heat will go up, but on ice level, you hardly impact the temperature. You do in the stands, that's good, but not too much at ice level.
So
yes,
I just have a question for Jeff. Jeff, do you want a recommendation for a letter to be sent?
Sure.
Here, I'll make that recommendation that we send.
Can I make a comment?
Oh,
Go ahead.
Points, yeah.
And I reading this letter, there was a couple of things that concerned me, like when they said the lobby area is too small. You know, I've been involved in minor hockey refereeing for many years. Back in Ontario where I lived, we had one of the finest arenas, but the lobby wasn't much bigger than that. Never had a complaint about the lobby space, because I've always thought there was lots of space in that lobby. So I'm just trying to figure out how many kids do they have in there all at the same time? You know, I mean, that's we can't do much about that. That'd be a very, very costly, figure to
be pretty expensive. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Anyways.
Councillor Selk,
yes.
Councillor Court.
So I agree with the mayor. Let's just make a recommendation, move on. However, in the letter, can we also suggest to figure skating club and possibly minor hockey that we would appreciate any skin they can put in the game?
I would agree with that amendment. I thought of exactly adding that to the letter. So yes, I believe we should.
Because I believe both organizations get funding from casinos.
Right. So it's a very good point. I had the same question regarding that. There was a lot of ask and not much of what we could do for you. So we have a motion of recommendation. Yeah.
All in favor of that? We need a vote on this thing, or is it just a recommendation?
We do need to vote.
Okay, all in favor of this recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed to that? Thank you. Any other discussions on the other correspondence from the ministers?
Councillor Court, if I could comment on one.
Yes.
Minister Madu sent us a letter that our ACP grant for the joint water and the storm sewer grants were approved.
Awesome.
So we have a kickoff meeting on Thursday with Associated Engineering on the water study. So that'll get going right away. And then we put the stormwater study out for proposal today.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Awesome.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
In that letter, there is a little bit of a desire for them to be invited to recognize that the town got that grant. Is that something at this time within those type of circumstances we want to do? We've done it in the past.
What are they looking for?
Well, normally they have the MLA that comes and they have someone of that department and department municipal affairs that comes, and that just kind of gives a spiel that they gave us money. It's a fair sum of money at a time when there's not tons around. So I'm wondering if we shouldn't contact them and at least recognize the fact that, acknowledge that we received that. We're much appreciative of it, but also send them an invite if they want an invite. But during those circumstances, I don't know that they want it.
With the COVID-19 around, I'm sure they'd want to.
I don't know, but we should leave it up to them to let us know.
Okay.
Maybe just a phone call from administration to their department, or to
All right.
Joseph Scow, possibly.
Councillor Selk, Councillor Court.
Mr. Chairman, maybe another suggestion is that when we actually receive the study, because that would be farther down the line, we could actually do something then.
Once this virus has been run its course.
We could acknowledge that the grant was made possible by an ACP grant from the province of Alberta and recognize it. I don't know.
Throw it in the newspaper, throw it out on the media, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for them is something important, because at a time when they're cutting the budget all over the place, they didn't cut that grant, and we're grateful for it. We waited for it, and as part of the ICF, and we got a fair chunk of money to do a substantial study, which will help us in the future and help the county along.
So
a letter acknowledging.
Maybe a letter would be a fine thing to do.
my suggestion would be, when we actually get the study, we're probably going to review it in council, and we could invite our MLA to attend, and we can give them a thank you right then.
That can be good.
You're certainly not going to do a grip and greet with the check.
No. Okay, any other discussions on those letters?
Do you want a recommendation to have that letter written?
Well, you've talked about a couple things. You talked about acknowledging when we get the study, or sending a letter, or both.
I would do both. I'd send the letter first, then acknowledge it after we got it done.
Okay.
I'll make
my preference.
Maybe within the letter we could tell them, we could acknowledge them and invite them at that point, when hopefully things are a little bit.
Mr. Chairman.
How's yourself?
I'll make that recommendation. We acknowledge
Thank you.
now and later.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 No, none opposed, I assume. Is there anything else? Do we need to go into confidential items? We talked about this, but yesterday, Jeff, do you still want to talk about that?
Yeah, very generally.
Okay, we have Charles.
Yeah, I've talked to him. So Corey, we need to let you go.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yeah.
Can I make that motion?
You may.
I make a motion to go in closed session.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We're in.
I might be able to kick him out here. Let me see.
Okay.